Hello. How are you? Hello. My name is Mr. Bottom. Hello. Oh god, that's weird. See, that's okay. Hello. And welcome to the November 2020. Are you serious? Hello, and welcome to the 2022. Hello, and welcome to the November 2022 monthly update. Coming to the end of the year, not much has happened world news wise. Like you hopefully know, I don't actually look at the news, but from what I've heard, not much has really been going on. I don't. Yeah, I can't think of anything that's been going on in the world, so I'll just talk about me. All of the stuff with my teeth is all done now. I've had 2 extractions and 8 fillings. And my mouth is feeling better, which is good. That's it. Good night. No, that's all that's really been going on in my personal life. However, things that, well, I guess I'll just go through these. So I've done some paintings, of course, as usual. And I guess I'm gonna talk about these now. So we'll start with this one. I've done 10 paintings this month, starting with number 22, which was painted from the 1st to the 2nd. It's a painting. I think that's what we can say. On canvas board as opposed to canvas. Which is why you can see, even though these are straight lines, you can see them kind of bend a little bit because that's just how they. And you can actually see some of the table at the top there. I didn't crop that enough. Quite happy with this painting. It's a very limited color palette. For some reason, it got quite popular on here. It's had 10 favorites, which is rare. I think that's like some of the most I've ever had on a painting. I don't know why everyone likes it as much as they do, but they seem to like it. I'm happy with it. Next was telephone, which was Wiz. Well, no, this was this I was painted over number 19, which is this one. So this one here, I painted over to create this one, and I'm much happier with it. So this is quite a big one. And I quite like how I did it. There's these red splatters over here. This there is that little bit there is a thumbprint, which I did because I painted this white line, but I'd already got a sort of red blob there, and so I didn't want to paint over it, and so I painted up to there and past there, and then just sort of filled in, which is where you can see the angle slightly change between this bit and this bit. You can see it kind of curves when that's a straight line and that's a straight line. And that's because that bit was painted and then that bit was painted, and I painted around the thumbprint, and then it looked weird. and so I had to splatter some more red around it to make it look a bit more naturally blended in. But I like it. I like what I did with it. Next is self-portrait. Now this one was done on paper. It's actually based on a photograph that my mum took of me. This green is a scarf that I have, which I got from a charity shop quite recently. Actually, from the same place I got a few of the canvases from. Because it's much cheaper to get canvases with prints on from the charity shop and then just paint over them than it is to get fresh canvases. This is alright, I guess. It's not the best painting I've done, but I'm going to publish them all from now on. All finished artworks are going to be published, even if I'm not entirely happy with them. Like this is pretty crap, really, but whatever. This is a room with a view, which I believe at 13 favourites is my most popular painting on DeviantArt. I'm quite happy with it. This is actually made up of 2 canvas boards that I've taped together down the middle. And then I glued this big square here that you can see is actually a piece of kitchen roll. Because when I'm painting, I have a bit of kitchen roll on the side to like wipe the excess paint off of the brush. And then it also gives me collage material for later paintings, and this is exactly what I've done here. This one took a very long time to dry because you can see these big green blobs here were very wet. And I don't even think they were fully dry when I took this picture, but I didn't want to wait too long before taking the picture because, you know, it'd be out of date then. But yeah, I'm very happy with this painting. And this really is where I started experimenting a little bit more with the more Jackson Pollocky type of painting with the drips. Like you can see a lot of drips here. I mean, these big green bits where I poured the paint, but you can see like with the yellow and the black here and some of this red down here, I was actually starting to do the Jackson Pollocky drips. I think I did some on the previous ones as well. Yeah, I did some there, but not much. But as you, oh, I went green. Oh, I went green for a minute. And that was painted on the 7th of this month. But you will see very soon, in this exact one here, that I started, and I suppose these paintings, most of the paintings from now on have this kind of Jackson Pollocky theme to them, because it's really fun. I didn't realise how fun it was, but it's actually really fun to do this Jackson Pollocky type of painting. Although he would mostly let his layers dry, meaning there's much sharper lines, whereas these lines are all quite blurry. Except with the black and white, because the black and white paints are much thicker, and so they don't really blend with the others as much, whereas these blue and green, if you look at the edges of the blue and the green, they all blend together. But nevertheless, very happy with this one. It's got quite a nice colour palette. A very similar colour palette to a later painting originally had, but I ended up painting over it because it was taking so long to dry that I just decided to just completely get rid of it. So in fact, the last painting that you're gonna see that I'm gonna show you was actually pretty much identical to this painting. It's a slightly different shape, but it's pretty much identical to this painting, but I completely did over it. Well, I scraped most of the wet paint off and started again. But that was number 23. Number 24, a much more minimalist piece, only 2 colours, 3 if you include the, again, this is also a canvas board. This one was canvas, and that's the canvas board, canvas board. This one's tiny. This is a tiny little canvas board. In fact, this is probably smaller than I'm looking at it now on the screen. Like I can fit my entire hand inside this picture on my screen. It's certainly not that big. So if you're watching this on a screen that's average monitor size, like if you're watching this on a laptop or something like that, you're probably seeing the exact size of the actual painting. But just I painted this background grey, which mixed in because some mold was growing on the canvas board. And so I kind of mixed that in, and so it's the kind of greeny grey colour, which I then splattered some pink on. I didn't drip it, I got it on the, because it's quite thick, this pink paint, although I think I've used it up now. And I just got it on the palette knife and just flicked it on, and then I dripped the white paint over the top, and it creates a very nice, I quite like this painting. Next one, Blue Room 1. Probably the best painting I've ever done on paper. I like it. I don't know why. And now I did this on, when did I do this? On the 9th. I did it. And it was exactly the same, except there weren't these white lines defining the room. But then just before I went to bed that night, I added the white lines, and it completely changed the painting and made it much, much better. And it is Blue Room 1 because I do intend to do more, because I just really like how this is inspired by Francis Bacon as well, because he did some paintings where they were like, the only theme running through them was the fact that it was in a room. I don't think it was a blue room with him. It might have been. Or it might have been someone else who did that, but I'm pretty sure it was Francis Bacon. Anyway, next painting, which is a diptych. This is number 25, panel 1. A very dirty, because these two had started out as different paintings, and I just didn't like them, so I just smudged all the paint together, which made all this grey nastiness. Dumped a wet, wet paper towel on them, which is this big sort of shape you see here, and then dipped a dark blue and then a lighter blue over the top. Still a dark blue, but lighter than the other blue, which looks kind of purple on here. That's panel 1. And that's panel 2, which I actually think is better. The lines are more well defined, I think. But that's that. And then finally, number 26. This was the one, and you can kind of see it around the edges here. If you look up here, you can see some white lines around there, and in here, and right up here in the corner. This is the one that looked like, I think it was number 23. But I just sort of scraped over it. Now you can see this again, another bit of paper towel over here. This here looks quite similar, but this is actually just really, come on. This down here is just really thick paint. But up here, this is paper towel, and that's because I actually burnt a hole in the canvas. Because Mum has this tiny little blowtorch thing in the cellar where we do the paintings, and she uses it for drying paintings faster and getting, because she does these pour paintings, and she does it to get the bubbles out. But I thought maybe I could try drawing on the canvas by burning it. I didn't tell her about this, and I haven't told her about this, so she still doesn't know, unless she watches this, of course. But, so I just sort of set bits of the canvas on fire, but in this particular area, it just burnt straight through. And if you look at the back of the canvas, you can actually see a big brown hole right there, which is why I had to put that over the top. But yeah, this is alright. And that's all of my paintings done for this month. Then I've done a short film, Protozoa 3, the third film in the Protozoa series, titled Stare, which consists of me staring at the camera with holding a torch under my face, and then different variations of that same face being floated around the screen. And then I have finally set up the Bandcamp page for Moid. I haven't had any purchases yet, but I've had a few plays, no complete plays, but a few. I've had 9 partial plays, which I believe is past the 10% mark, but stopped before the 90% mark. And then I've had 6 skips, which means it was stopped before the 10% mark. Giving me 15 total plays. But yeah, it's not doing too well over there. But then it's not exactly commercial music. So that's everything I've done over the last month, unless I'm forgetting anything. I'll add it in a pinned comment if I am, but I don't think nothing important's happened that I can remember. Next month, well, obviously it's gonna be Christmas quite soon, so that's gonna be fun. Oh, yeah, something did happen. Not in the world, but just in my life. I just a few days ago, in fact, me and my mum went out to have dinner with my uncle. So that was that. It's not important, but it was nice. I had some chicken, which was very nice. Anyway, what was I saying? Next month, Christmas, that same uncle is going to be coming to the house as well, along with my grandma and grandfather on my mother's side. We may be going to the dad's side of the family's house on Christmas Eve. We haven't fully figured that out yet because we used to go every year to their house for Christmas Eve, but then we just haven't gone in years. I don't think since we've moved, and we've been living in this house for like 5 years now. I don't think we've been since we moved here. We might have once, but I don't think we have. So it's a shame, but hopefully we do. And if we don't, then you know. But that's really all I can think about next month. I've been doing a lot of music since I stopped painting. But yeah, I haven't stopped painting, but I haven't painted since that last painting that you just saw. But I'm doing a lot of music. I've almost completed. You saw in a live stream me doing one of the songs, the song Covenant. And I'm almost done with the album. I have got all of the first 3, because it's going to be a double up from now on, unless an album has a specific theme, like a concept album or anything like that, or a specific sound it's going for. If it's just me experimenting completely randomly, completely freely, they're all going to be double albums from now on, just because it gives me more time to work on and get everything perfect. Not that anything I'm ever going to do is perfect, but you know what I mean, mix-wise, perfect. And track listing-wise, because there's been times in the past where the second I've finished recording the final song on the album, I just immediately upload it. And then I've gone back like a few days later or a few weeks later, and there's something that I'm not particularly happy with, like in maybe the order of the songs or something like that. And obviously, by that point, I can't go back and alter it. I can alter the track listing on Bandcamp, but I can't alter it on the YouTube video. I've only had to do that once though, because to sort of future-proof it in case it ever goes on vinyl, which it won't most likely. But I like to, I keep all the sides to around 20 minutes because that's vinyl record length. But basically, I don't know if I'll be done next month, but you are going to be hearing this album quite soon. So you can look forward to That Moid Thing, which is what it's going to be called. I explained why in that video I did where I was doing one of the songs, so you can go and watch that if you care. Talk about films and TV shows I've watched. I haven't watched anything new, or that I haven't watched before, so I don't really have anything to. I mean, I watched They Live and The Fisher King with my mum. The Fisher King being the most I've seen my mum laugh at any film, and she did say it was one of the funniest films she's ever seen, and it is one of the funniest films ever. They Live. I don't know. She didn't seem to enjoy it that much. I mean, because admittedly it is quite slow. I mean, it's 1/3 into the film when the plot starts, really. But that's because it was adapted from a short story. I failed to tell her that. I really should have. But it doesn't really matter now. But also because I could get through the first half hour when I first watched it because I knew the twists. I knew about the aliens and everything. And I was watching it for that, and so I could get through it, whereas I didn't tell her because I didn't want to spoil it. So as far as she was concerned, we were going to be watching this homeless guy walking around for an hour and a half, So I think that's why she seemed a bit skeptical during the first half hour. Once the aliens showed up, she started enjoying herself, luckily. And that's it, really. And her and my brother have been watching The Walking Dead together as well. Well, they always did, but he's got it on DVD now, and so they've gone back because I think she started watching it during about season 5. But now they've gone back to series 1 on DVD and they're watching it. I haven't watched any of The Walking Dead TV show. I watched PewDiePie's entire playthrough of the game, I think, about 3 times now. Although I've watched the first episode probably about 20 times, because I'll start watching it and I'll get bored halfway through, but I've only finished the series 3 times. It is worth it, although he gets really mangy after a certain trick that was played on him in the final episode. So he's just sort of manging about for 20 minutes, and then the twist, and that, you know. And during season 3, he was just really like. There's one episode of season 3 where he live streams it, and he's not even playing the game. He's just playing the chat, and the game is on in the background. And when I get to season 3 and bits of season 4, I don't really watch him anymore, because he's not the reason I'm really watching it. I watch the game as if I was watching a film or something, and I just try to ignore him. Sometimes it's not possible because he has that stupid soundboard thing, and when anything happens, you're like, bah, 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 you know. But it's really annoying. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Albums that I've listened to 3. All Roxy Music. First is their self-titled album from 1972, which has the song Virginia playing on it, which is one of my favourite songs ever now. Although the live version they did on Top of the Pops is better than the version they did on the album. I prefer the mix. His voice and just Brian Ferry's vocals are quite boring on the album version, if I'm being honest. He seems a lot more energetic in the live version. And then the album For Your Pleasure from 1973 has my favourite, my favourite Roxy Music album song, in Editions of You, which has one of the greatest one of the greatest solos ever. And it goes through 3 stages. Like, it starts out as a saxophone solo, and then turns in to a synthesizer solo, and then turns into a guitar solo. And it lasts like 2 minutes. It's brilliant. And then the final album, and the first one after Brian Eno left. And I probably wouldn't have listened to this far had they parted on, you know, an unfortunate terms. But they, you know, it was from what I have read, it was a amicable split, and that's why I went on to listen to this album. I usually wouldn't because admittedly Brian Eno is the only reason I even know about Roxy Music, and so after he's left, I felt it's probably pointless carrying on listening. But he has actually himself said that their 3rd album, Stranded, which was the first one after he left, is his favourite, and so I went on and listened to it, and yeah, out of the 3 I've listened to so far, that one is actually the best as an album. I still prefer individual songs from the first 2 to any individual song from Stranded. But as an album, as a full album, Stranded was the most enjoyable of the 3. This is only my first listen. Things change. Like one of my favourite Fleetwood Mac albums now, and I've actually been going back through Fleetwood Mac's discography, just because I love them. And this time I am actually going to listen to those final 3 that I haven't gotten around to yet, because I started Behind the Mask and couldn't finish even the first song. I hated it that much, but maybe I'm overreacting. But tonight I'm gonna be listening to Future Games from 1971, which is one of my favourites. But anyway, like I was saying, Heroes Are Hard to Find, Fleetwood Mac album from 1974, the first one before Stevie Nicks and Liz Buckingham joined, and the last one with Bob Welch. I didn't enjoy it that much when I first listened to it, but now it's probably my, I don't know, like my 3rd or 4th favourite, I think. If I'm rating them, I think Tusk is, well, I know Tusk is my favourite. Then probably Fleetwood Mac 75 or Mystery to Me, one of those 2 in the 2nd or 3rd place. and then number 4, Heroes Hard to Find, and then Rumours, probably. Because Rumours, everyone says it's the greatest album ever, and by extension, obviously, the greatest Fleetwood Mac album. It really isn't. It's very good. Like, every single song on it is a masterpiece. But when you enjoy an album that much from the first listen, it's always going to get worse on subsequent listens. Whereas an album that you don't enjoy as much the first time, you're likely going to enjoy it a lot more on subsequent listens, because there are bits you don't notice. Because if you like a song from the first time you listen to it, you listen a lot more intently, and so you catch all the little, or most of the little musical nuances very quickly on just the first or second listen. Whereas songs that you don't like, the first time you're listening to it, you're kind of just waiting for it to be over, and you're not really listening to the song. And so on subsequent listens, you give it more, and it takes you longer to be able to enjoy it. And because it takes you longer to enjoy it, the enjoyment lasts longer as well. Like, when I first listened to them all, Rumours probably was my favourite. But now it's, like I said, like 5th. I think Tusk is the exception to that, because I really enjoyed Tusk on my first listen, and it's still my favourite. So, you know, maybe it's... Although there's a few songs, and they're like... I mean, the one song I'm not entirely fond of, and the one song that I have at no point gone back and listened to on its own, like every other song from that album has just popped into my head at some point, and I've just gone and listened to it, apart from Tusk, because I don't know why. I think I mean, I like Weird, and it's referred to as an experimental album. It really isn't, but that song in particular is really, I can say that's quite experimental. Not that I have anything against experimental things. I mean, it's the name of the effing channel. You know. But even though I myself make experimental music and I respect it, it's not actually the kind of music I like to listen to mostly. I like the commercial stuff. Even like commercial stuff from the 80s, like Wham. I like Wham. And I like Madonna. I like commercial things. But it's just, I find, you know, you can listen to them a few times and really enjoy them. They may even become your favourite song for a while, but it'll never last. Whereas the more interesting experimental stuff, even if you don't like it as much on your first listen, eventually you will love it, and then you'll likely love it forever, you know? Like, for instance, Jean-Michel Jarre. Now, the album Equinox, I can't remember the first time I listened to it, because my dad had it, and so it's kind of always been there, but it's... Sorry, the sound keeps going over the limit. I'm sorry about that. I'll hold the microphone at a distance from now on. If I'm too quiet, you can always turn up the volume. I have that little add-on. I have the add-on on my browsers, which allows me to boost the audio 600%, in case any videos get too quiet. I actually really did it for my own videos, because these are always quite quiet, although this one evidently isn't being, as it keeps going over the limit. But that's because I've boosted the sound 10 decibels on OBS. But anyway, like I'm saying, what was I saying? What was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Basically, oh yeah, Equinox. Even though I can't remember my first listen to it, but considering it's quite weird, I probably didn't enjoy it that much on my first listen, but now it's one of my favourite albums. I mean, it's not my favourite album at the moment, but it's probably always going to be one of my favourites, where for all I know, Tusk may not last. It's my favourite album at the moment, but you know, a year ago, my favourite album was, I think, Speaking in Tongues by Talking Heads. And before that, it was, I can't remember. I think my first... Equinox was my favourite album for a very long time. And then it was Talking Heads, More Songs About Buildings and Food. And then it was Public Image Limited's first issue. Because that was when I was at college, and I was very angry about college, and so a very angry album naturally became my favourite for a while. I felt so cool as well, walking around college, seeing all these people who were probably listening to like One Direction and stuff in their earphones, and in my earphones, John Lydon screeching, I felt very cool. I probably wasn't. Hey, at least I'm not wearing a trilby. At least this is a proper hat, eh? It does annoy me how everyone refers to trilbies as fedoras. I mean, you can make fun of the people who wear them, but at least get the name of the hat right. It's not a fedora. It's a trilby. Yes, it's that boring hat. No, I mean, I'm kind of annoyed because I like the trilby. When it's a well-made trilby, not these cheap ones where they accentuate the features, like it goes right up at the back and it goes like right down like this. Like, they don't have to tip the hat. The hat is tipping itself. It's like they've stapled it to their forehead or something. When it's a nicely made trilby, made out of material like this one. I mean, this might even be a trilby. I don't know. I mean, it's very similar in shape. But it's, you know, the brim is a bit wider. Why am I talking about hats? No one gives a crap about hats. Which is a shame, because I really like hats. Why can I not stay on one path conversationally? Why? Why do I constantly rant and rave and go on, like, ramble, these ramblings? I don't know why. Like, how many subjects did I go through in the space of a minute then? Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. You probably haven't, because who the hell would? I mean, you know, when I go mad, the police, they're going to look back at this video and it's like, how did no one notice what was... You know, I mean, I'm completely mad. I'm just mad. You know, I'm mad. Just mad and I'm mad and I'm mad. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please like, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next thing that I do. Goodbye.